Hi, I'm Dale.
And I'm Marilyn.
And we're your property couple, real estate agents in Pittsburgh. You know, what we're going to talk about today are 7 inexpensive tips to get your house prepared for the winter season. You know, we're getting into winter right now, and there's some things people really need to do on the inside and outside of their house.
And I'm sure a lot of people will find this information useful.
Yeah, and what we're going to do, we're going to go through everything from sidewalks, a little bit on driveways, windows, doors, air conditioning units, and of course you can't forget your furnace and your hot water heater. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And so you get updates on all our informative videos, subscribe to our channel.
If you have any questions regarding this topic or any of the other videos that we've produced, please leave a comment in the comment line below. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
One of the things you want to do to prepare your home and your property for winter is to check out your sidewalk. And what you want to do is make sure any cracks or divots are covered with concrete. Such as, what you want to do is walk up and down your sidewalk, and when you see holes such as this, you want to fill that with concrete, because what happens, water's going to sit in there, snow's going to sit in there, and when it freezes and expands, it's going to start chipping away at the concrete. So all you want to do is take a little bit of, I use Quikrete, it's called patching compound. So you take some Quikrete patching compound that's already made up, you just take a little bit on a spatula, and you cover the hole. Just like that, and so no water gets in there. And you want to make sure you look at your whole sidewalk, and any cracks or divots you want to fill with this concrete patch. Okay, so one of the other things you want to do with concrete, whether it's a driveway or a sidewalk, is when you fill the holes with the other patch compound that we had, in the case of a very thin crack, you want to use what I like to use is this DAPS concrete filler, and it comes in a tube that you can use with your tube gun, and all you do is go along the crack with the filler, and then have a putty knife with you, and you take the putty knife and you just run it down along that seam. Have the paper towel with you so you don't get it everywhere, and then that fills in that crack, and no water will get in there for the winter season. Another thing you want to do in addition to a concrete sidewalk is you may have an asphalt driveway, and asphalt over a period of time will develop cracks in it. So those cracks and any holes in the asphalt, you also want to patch with asphalt sealer so you don't get water in there, because once water gets in there, same as the sidewalk, it's going to expand when it freezes, and it's going to start chipping away at the asphalt and ruin your driveway. So make sure you patch your driveway also. Okay, another thing you want to do for winter preparation is you have to protect your air conditioning unit. But a lot of people, what they do is they cover the entire unit with some sort of a protective cover. You don't want to do that unless it's breathable. If you have a breathable cover, then that's okay, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to trap moisture in there, and you want to prevent snow and ice from building up on top of the unit. So what you should do, if you don't have a breathable unit, you can go to the store. I have a sheet of aluminum. You can get a sheet of plywood, you can get plexiglass, or any type of a hard material. Set it on top of your air conditioner, and now, so the wind doesn't blow that off, you secure it with some blocks on top. So I'm going to take these blocks, put it on there to secure that from the wind blowing it off, and we get a lot of strong winds here. But you don't want to trap moisture in here, so you want to prevent wrapping type of material, because if you get any critters in there, they start eating away at the materials that are in your air conditioner. Also, if you get snow and ice from the top, when it thaws out, the salt in that snow or ice is going to corrode all the electrical components that are inside Next thing you want to do to protect your house from the winter elements is you want to seal and caulk all the windows and doors where there's any opening or where any air could get through. And what you want to use is something like this, which is a silicone sealer. You can use clear or white. Sometimes they come in some other colors. And what you want to do is, there's two ways of doing this. You could put the sealer in where you need to caulk, and as you see I have to caulk in here because there's an opening. I can then smooth it with my finger or my thumb, which I usually do, or sometimes if you're not secure about doing it with your fingers, you can take some painter's tape. And when you take the painter's tape, you want to line the inside, or line whatever it is that you're going to seal with the painter's tape, such as this. And then you take the sealer, and now this silicone sealer, this tip, you want to cut it on an angle, and you want to start off small because you don't want a very large clump of the sealer. So you cut it on an angle so that it comes out smoothly, such as this with a razor blade. Or you can actually take your caulking tool, and this hole in here has a razor blade in it. You could use that, and then you close the handle and there's a blade in there that'll snip the top also. Then you have on the side, you have this point here which will open up the opening for the putty to come out. So once you do this, make a nice big opening in there. You take your paper towel, clean it, always have paper towels with you. And now we're going to put this in the gun. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to spread this in here slowly and evenly. Okay, always use a paper towel so it doesn't drip. And now take your finger and run it along the tape. And always wipe it on a paper towel. You'll have some residue left over. There you go. Now, when you're finished with your entire strip, I'm only going to do a small piece for the demonstration purposes, but now you take off your tape. And now you have a nice smooth seal. Okay. Okay, so one of the things you need to do is you need to pay attention to your gutters. You know, when the leaves fill up in the gutters and the water does not drain efficiently, you can cause ice damming on your roof. And once you do that, you could now have moisture going up under your roof and getting into your home and damaging the wood up there and causing mold. So you want to make sure you keep your gutters clean.
Very important.
Very important. Another home maintenance tip for fall and winter is once a year you want to flush out your water heater. The reason for that is that as the water goes through your water heater, you get sediment at the bottom of the tank. That sediment is corrosive. So eventually, over a period of time, that corrosion is going to rust internally, and it's going to start putting holes in the water heater internally, and then you're going to have a damaged water heater and have to replace it. So once a year, you flush that out to keep that sediment from building up. And how you do that, step number one, is you want to locate your cold water inlet, not the hot, because that's the outlet. You want to locate the cold water inlet, and you want to shut that valve off so we don't, as we're draining the water out, we don't want water to continue to fill in. So I'm going to find the valve for that water line, and in this particular case, it's right here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this clockwise until it shuts off. Now that'll prevent any more cold water from coming in. The second step you want to do is now, once we drain the water out of the tank, and it's going to be very hot, so don't touch the water coming out of the tank, is you don't want the heating elements to heat up because they're going to be exposed to air. And what happens is if they start to heat up when there's no water in there, you're going to burn the heating elements out and ruin it. So the first thing you want to do is down here on the water heater, you want to turn it all the way down to low. So you want to rotate this all the way down to where it's down to low, or if you have a shut-off switch, such as on this unit, you can just simply shut the unit off, as I have just done now. And that'll prevent those heating elements from heating. So now the next thing you want to do is we have to hook up a hose. This is where the water is going to come out of. This is an outlet valve. So we're going to hook a hose up to this and turn this valve on and drain this tank. So I'm going to take a piece of this hose, I'm going to screw this in the bottom, and I'm going to take a screwdriver now. One thing you want to do is if you don't have a short piece of hose, you could cut one if you have a drain near your water heater. Or if you have a very long piece of hose and it's convenient for you to get out a garage or a basement door or a window, you could have this drain outside into the yard. So what you want to do is come find the drain. And now in this case I can't put the hose down in this drain, so I'm going to remove the cap. So I'm going to take a screwdriver and just pry this up. And now I have my drain exposed. I'm going to put the hose down inside the drain, and then I'm going to come over here and we're going to eventually turn this on. However, one thing we want to do first so that we get air to help us, because it's like a suction on a straw. If you don't have air at the top, when you hold the top of the straw, you can pull the liquid up and have the liquids stay in the straw. Well, you don't want that effect in here, so you need air at the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to go upstairs and we're going to open up the hot side of one of these valves, a faucet that's upstairs, so that we get that air coming into the tank. Okay, so now I'm at another location in the house. I'm going to turn the hot water valve on so that we now have a vacuum available for that water heater that's down in the basement. Okay, so we've gone upstairs and we've opened up the hot water valve in one of the rooms at another location in the house. That'll allow us to be able to drain the tank. So now on this valve, you take a screwdriver and you open up the valve. Now as you open up the valve, water is going to start coming out of the hose. And now you want to turn this counterclockwise, a quarter of a turn. And now there goes our water's flowing out the hose. And it's very, very hot. Let me raise this up so you can see this. And as you see, there's water coming out of the hose. Now this is going to take a long time because there's a lot of water in this tank, so this drainage is going to take quite a while. So now if you happen to open up the valve and you don't get a lot of water out and you need more of a suction to come out of it, you can open up the relief valve, and this relief valve will now then allow air to come into the unit. So now as I open up the relief valve, let's take a look at this hose again. And now you see that water's really coming out of there. If you happen to have this coming out in a driveway or in a yard, as it gets down to the bottom of the tank, you'll start to see sediment materials come out of the tank and will be in the driveway or in the yard, and then you'll know that you're really flushing that out. Okay, so about 20 minutes has passed and our tank is now empty. As I can see by looking at the hose, or if you have it running outside, you can have it running outside, but we have no more water coming out of the hose. So what you want to do is, if you have an older tank, do this twice. And the reason is because what happens is you want, when you pour the cold water back into the tank, it's going to stir up that sediment that's in there, and it'll flush more sediment out. So if you have an older tank, which this one's not, this one's only about 3 years old, so there's not much sediment in it, but if you have an older tank, do this whole sequence twice, so you flush out and stir out that the deposits that get at the bottom. So now that this is empty, first thing I'm going to do is shut off the valve so I can remove the hose. So I'm going to turn this clockwise so I can shut the valve off, and now I'm going to remove the hose. Now the other thing you want to do is the relief valve, let me set this here, the relief valve that is open, you want to leave this open, because as I open up the cold water and we start filling up the tank, and as we start filling up the tank, you want the air to go out somewhere, because there's going to be air pressure in there. So you want the air pressure to go out the relief valve. So what I'm going to do now is I've removed the hose, I've having the valve shut off. I'm going to open up the cold water valve, and you'll hear the water start to flow. Open up slowly so I don't hammer the lines too hard. Okay, the relief valve is still open. The pressure is going to come out. The pressure in the tank, the air is going to come out the relief valve, so I don't build up any pressure in there. And so what will happen is I'm going to stand here and I'm going to actually kind of gauge when the water level rises up to a certain level, because I don't want the water level to get to the valve, or else all the water is going to come out the bottom of the valve. So we're just going to wait until I can hear that water rising. Okay, so now that I've kind of listened a little bit and I got to gauge where the water is in the tank, the water level's rising up towards the valve. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut the valve off. I'm going to close this relief valve so water doesn't come out. The next thing I'm going to do now that I have water in the tank and the heating elements are now covered with water, they're not exposed any longer, I can now turn on the thermostat and let's adjust the temperature to the temperature that we want, and then you'll hear the gas come on. There. Now you can hear that the gas came on, turned this fan on, and now this water heater is ready to be operated. Okay, so the last step that you want to do is go to any faucet in the house, doesn't matter where it's at, and open up the hot water so that you get the air out of the pressure lines. A lot of air. And then you'll see the water will start to flow in a few seconds. There we go. There, and then you get the air out of the lines, because the air in the tank, as it's filling up with water, has to come out somewhere. So you want to make sure that you open up any hot water valve in the house. Okay. Another thing you want to do to prepare your home for winter is you want to have your furnace serviced. Have it checked every year. But one of the easy maintenance things that you want to do yourself is to make sure you have a clean air filter in there at least once every 1 or 2 months. And you don't want to get a high efficiency furnace filter. You want to get what is their basic model, or they have good, better, best. You want to have good, because you don't want to starve and restrict the flow of the air through your furnace. So what you do is you come down over here, and you'll have some sort of a door and an opening. You want to take your old filter out, and it'll be very dirty. And then you want to take a new filter, and when you put the new filter in, notice it shows you where the airflow is. You want to go in the direction of the airflow. So in this case, the airflow is from this ductwork into the furnace from the bottom and then out. So we want to put this in this way so the airflow is facing that way. You slide it in, and then you close your door. Very simple home maintenance, and that should be done every 1 to 2 months. If you have any questions, contact us. Meanwhile, check out our video on common home buying questions for your home purchase. And so you don't miss out on an episode, subscribe to our channel.